On my daughter's 10th birthday, my sister-in-law gifted her a card that said, "You're nothing like your dad wanted." She asked me, "Is that why he left us?" A few hours later, a family friend showed up with a letter. What happened next was, my name's Amanda Lewis. I'm 39 years old, and I live in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. It's a quiet little town right near the water. You can smell the ocean every morning when you open your windows. The kind of place where everybody knows your history whether you want them to or not. I work part-time at the local library, shelving books and helping kids find stories they'll fall in love with. It's not glamorous, but it's peaceful, and after everything that's happened, peace is worth more to me than money. Most of my world revolves around my daughter, Katie. She's 10 now, though sometimes I look at her and swear I can still see the tiny baby I used to rock to sleep. She's got these wild brown curls, big hazel eyes, and this laugh that could make a stone statue smile. Katie's birthday had always been tough for me since Jeremy left. He walked out 3 years ago, right after a fight that had been building up for months. One night, we were arguing about the bills, his drinking, his job, everything really, and the next morning, he was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. At first, I kept hoping he'd come back, say he was sorry, that he'd gotten help, but hope faded faster than I thought it would. Katie asked about him less and less, but I could tell she still missed him. Kids don't stop loving their parents, no matter what. So when Katie's 10th birthday rolled around, I promised myself it would be a good day. No sadness. No drama. Just balloons, cake, a few friends, and lots of smiles. The day started like a dream. Katie burst into my room at 6 in the morning, practically vibrating with excitement. "Mom, wake up. It's my birthday." I cracked when I opened and groaned dramatically. "Already? Are you sure you're not turning 6 again?" She giggled and flopped onto the bed. "Pancakes? You promised chocolate chip pancakes." I smiled and pulled myself up. All right. Birthday girl's orders. We made pancakes together, with Katie sneaking chocolate chips into her mouth when she thought I wasn't looking. I let her. It was her day, after all. By 11, the house was decorated with pink and purple streamers. Balloons floated against the ceiling, and the kitchen table was piled with gifts and cupcakes. A few of Katie's friends from school came by with their parents. My mom showed up, bringing her famous macaroni salad, and my neighbor Mrs. Burke from across the street popped in with a present too. Everything was going perfect, until Claire showed up. Claire is Jeremy's sister. Tall, blonde, always dressed like she's about to step onto a magazine cover, even when it's just a backyard barbecue. We've never gotten along. Even before Jeremy left, Claire treated me like I wasn't good enough for her brother. After he disappeared, she made it pretty clear she blamed me. She came in late, wearing a bright red coat and sunglasses, even though it wasn't sunny. In one hand, she carried a shiny gift bag. In the other, a thin envelope. "Happy birthday, Katie," she said in a sing-song voice that made my skin crawl. Katie, ever polite, beamed at her and took the gift. I was busy refilling the punch bowl, so I didn't see exactly what happened next. But a few minutes later, I heard Katie's small voice behind me. "Mom?" I turned around and froze when I saw her face. She was holding an open card, her little hands shaking slightly. "What's wrong, baby?" I asked, wiping my hands on a towel and hurrying over. Katie handed me the card without a word. It was a pretty card on the outside, pink butterflies, glitter, the whole thing. But inside, in Claire's unmistakable handwriting, it said, "You're nothing like your dad wanted." My mouth went dry. I looked up and saw Claire chatting with one of the other parents like nothing had happened. Katie's lip wobbled. She looked up at me with wide, tearful eyes. "Is that why he left us?" she whispered. The whole room seemed to go quiet. I could feel everyone watching us, pretending not to watch, that awkward tension hanging in the air like a heavy fog. I crouched down, forcing a smile onto my face, even though my hands were trembling. "No, sweetie. Absolutely not. Your dad leaving had nothing to do with you. You are perfect just the way you are." Katie nodded, but the sparkle was gone from her eyes. She clutched the card to her chest and wandered off to sit by herself on the couch, staring blankly at her presence. I stood up slowly, my body stiff with anger. I locked eyes with Claire across the room. She looked away quickly, pretending to scroll through her phone. The party limped on after that. People made excuses to leave early. The laughter faded. The house felt colder somehow, emptier. After the last guest left, I sat on the couch next to Katie. She didn't say much, just leaned against me while I stroked her hair. I was about to suggest we watch a movie when there was a knock at the door. I frowned. Maybe Mrs. Burke had forgotten something? I opened the door to find Mark Jennings standing there. Mark had been Jeremy's best friend since they were kids. Big guy, with kind eyes and a worn Red Sox cap he never seemed to take off. "Hey, Amanda," he said, shifting nervously. "Can I come in for a sec?" "Sure, Mark. Everything okay?" He stepped inside and pulled a crumpled envelope out of his jacket. "I've been holding on to this for a while. Jeremy gave it to me before he disappeared for good. Said if anything ever happened to him or if it seemed like you needed answers, I should give it to you." I stared at the envelope like it might explode. Mark gave me a sad look. "He's not dead, far as I know. But he's not doing good." I nodded, feeling numb. I took the envelope and sat down at the kitchen table. My hands shook as I opened it. "Amanda, I'm sorry. I know saying that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I never stopped loving you or Katie. You two were the best thing that ever happened to me. But I was broken long before I met you. I thought I could outrun it. I thought I could be enough. But the truth is, I hated myself more than I could ever love anyone else. Claire, she doesn't know half of it. She blames you because it's easier than facing the truth. Don't let her words hurt Katie. She's perfect. You both deserved better. Maybe someday, if I ever get clean, I'll come find you. If not, just know I'm sorry. I loved you both more than I ever said. Love, Jeremy." I finished reading and just sat there, staring at the table, the letter trembling in my hands. Mark sat down across from me. "You okay?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "No, but thank you for bringing this." He nodded, standing up. "If you need anything, you know where to find me." After he left, I went back to the living room where Katie was still sitting quietly. "Hey, baby," I said softly. "Your dad wrote us a letter. Would you like to hear it?" She nodded, her eyes huge. I sat down and read it to her, every word. When I finished, she sat very still for a moment. Then she whispered, "So it wasn't my fault?" I wrapped my arms around her. "No, sweetheart. It was never your fault. Not one little bit." Katie leaned against me, and for the first time all day, I felt her body relax. We sat like that for a long time, the sun setting outside, casting long golden shadows across the room. But deep inside me, a storm was brewing. Claire had crossed a line today, and she needed to be held accountable. I pulled out my phone and sent her a text. "We need to talk." Almost immediately, she replied. "About what?" I stared at the screen, feeling anger and sadness swirl inside me. "About the truth. About what you did to my daughter." I hit send and stared at the phone in my hand, my thumb hovering over the screen like it might catch fire. Claire didn't answer right away, and I wondered if she was going to pretend she didn't see the message. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Finally, my phone buzzed. "Fine. Tomorrow morning. Coffee House on Main. 9 a.m. I typed back one word. "Okay." I sat back on the couch, my heart pounding in my ears. Katie was curled up with a blanket, quietly drawing in her sketchbook. I watched her for a long time, feeling something I hadn't felt in years: rage. Not the hot, explosive kind that makes you scream and throw things. This was deeper, cold, steady. The kind that told me I wasn't going to let this go. That night, I barely slept. I kept seeing Katie's face when she read that card. Over and over. Her small voice asking me if that was why her dad had left. I clenched my jaw so tight it hurt. When morning came, I got Katie ready for school like always, pretending everything was fine. I packed her lunch, gave her an extra hug at the door, and watched her climb onto the bus. As soon as she was gone, I grabbed my jacket and headed to Main Street. The coffee house was nearly empty when I got there. Just the barista behind the counter, 2 college kids on laptops, and Claire, sitting by the window in a crisp white blouse and sunglasses perched on her head. She didn't look up when I sat down. I ordered a black coffee from the waitress and stared at Claire until she finally sighed and set down her phone. "You wanted to talk," she said, her voice flat. "You're damn right I do," I said, keeping my tone low and even. Claire raised an eyebrow like she was already bored. I pulled the card out of my purse and slid it across the table. "Explain this," I said. Claire glanced at it, then shrugged. It was a joke. I leaned in, my hands gripping the edge of the table. "A joke? You call making a 10-year-old cry a joke?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Amanda. Don't be so dramatic. Kids are tough. She'll forget about it." I stared at her in disbelief. Was she serious? "She won't forget it," I said, my voice trembling with the effort to stay calm. She asked me if that's why her father left. "On her birthday, Claire. You made her believe she wasn't good enough." Claire shifted uncomfortably in her seat, but she still wouldn't meet my eyes. "She deserves better from you," I said. "She deserves the truth." Claire finally looked up, her face hard. "The truth? Fine. You want the truth? Jeremy was miserable. He drank because he couldn't stand his life. You nagged him to death. You made everything about rules and schedules, and I held up a hand. Stop. Just stop. She blinked at me, surprised. Jeremy was sick, Claire. He had problems long before I met him. You know it. I know it. He knew it. He left because he couldn't deal with himself, not because of me. And definitely not because of Katie. Claire's face twisted. You think he was some poor, tortured soul? He was a coward. Maybe he was, I said. But he loved his daughter. And you trying to poison her against him, against me, isn't going to fix anything. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. I read the letter, I said. The one he left with Mark. That shut her up. I leaned closer. Jeremy admitted he wasn't good enough. He admitted he ran because he hated himself. Not because of us. And you know what else? He begged me not to let your bitterness touch Katie. Claire's lips pressed into a thin line. I sat back, feeling drained. You want to be part of her life? Then you show up. You apologize. You make things right. Otherwise, stay away. For a long moment, Claire didn't say anything. She just stared at the card lying on the table between us like it was some kind of B&B about to go off. Finally, she whispered, I miss him too, you know. Her voice cracked on the last word. I blinked, caught off guard. Claire never showed emotion. Not ever. I miss him so damn much it feels like a hole in my chest, she said, her voice low and shaky. And it's easier to hate you than to admit that he chose to leave all of us. I didn't know what to say. Part of me still wanted to scream at her. Another part, a smaller, quieter part, understood exactly what she meant. Missing him doesn't give you the right to hurt Katie, I said softly. Claire nodded, brushing a tear from her cheek. I'll fix it, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I swear. I didn't answer. I just stood up, leaving my untouched coffee on the table. As I walked out, I felt like I could finally breathe again. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. The next few days passed in a weird sort of fog. Claire texted me, asking if she could come by and apologize to Katie. I told her she could, but only if she meant it, really meant it. Meanwhile, Katie seemed quieter. She still smiled, still laughed at silly cartoons, but it wasn't the same. There was a heaviness in her, like a shadow she didn't know how to shake off. I tried everything, ice cream, movie nights, extra hugs, but I knew healing would take time. One evening, just as I was cleaning up after dinner, there was a knock at the door. Katie jumped up from the couch. I'll get it. Before I could stop her, she flung the door open. Standing there, in the fading light, was a man I hadn't seen in 3 years. Jeremy. He looked older, thinner. His face was hollow, his eyes bloodshot. His hands shook slightly as he shoved them into the pockets of his worn jacket. Katie froze. I froze. Amanda, he said, his voice rough like sandpaper. My heart slammed against my ribs. My throat went dry. Daddy? Katie whispered. Jeremy's face crumpled. Jeremy's face crumpled the second he heard her say it. He took one shaky step forward, and then stopped himself like he wasn't sure he had the right. Hey, kiddo, he said, voice cracking. Katie looked back at me, her eyes wide, scared, confused. I swallowed hard, trying to get my brain to catch up. Jeremy was here, standing on my doorstep like some ghost that had wandered home after getting lost for too long. Come inside, I said, surprising even myself with how calm I sounded. Jeremy nodded once and stepped in, his boots leaving faint muddy prints on the tile. Katie stayed by the door, hugging herself. Why are you here? She asked, her voice so small it broke something deep in me. Jeremy shoved his hands deeper into his pockets. I wanted to see you. I should have come sooner. Katie didn't move. Didn't say anything. I crossed my arms over my chest. Where have you been, Jeremy? He glanced at me, ashamed. Boston. Mostly. Crashed on some couches. Rehab. Relapse. Repeat. I nodded slowly. So the letter wasn't lying. He really had fallen hard. I got clean 6 months ago, he added quickly, like he was afraid if he didn't say it fast, the words would run away from him. Been working construction. Saving up. Trying to be better. Katie's lower lip quivered. You didn't call, she said, her voice breaking. You didn't send me a birthday card. Or Christmas. Or anything. Jeremy closed his eyes like the words physically hurt him. I know, he whispered. I didn't think I deserved to. The room was thick with tension. The only sound was the soft hum of the fridge and the ticking clock over the stove. Finally, Katie looked up at me. Can I talk to him, Mom? She asked. I hesitated, then nodded. I'll be right here. Katie walked slowly over to the couch and sat down. Jeremy followed, sitting on the very edge of the opposite cushion, like he was afraid he might break the furniture just by being near it. They stared at each other for a long minute. "Why did you leave?" Katie asked quietly. Jeremy rubbed his hands over his face. When he dropped them, he looked years older. "I was sick, Katie," he said. "Not the kind of sick where you take medicine and get better. Sick in my head. I didn't know how to fix it. I thought, if I stayed, I'd just keep hurting you and your mom." Katie frowned. "You hurt me by leaving." Jeremy flinched like she'd slapped him. "I know," he said, voice thick. "I know I did. And I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry, kiddo." Katie picked at a loose thread on the couch cushion. "I thought it was because I wasn't good enough," she said. Jeremy's eyes filled with tears. "No, never. You're the best thing I ever had. I left because I was scared. Not because of you. Never because of you." Katie sniffed and wiped her nose on her sleeve. "You missed my birthdays," she said. "I know. And Christmas. I know." Katie's voice got louder, trembling with anger. "And when I got my trophy at school. And when I lost my first tooth. And when Mom was sick and I thought she was gonna die." Tears spilled down Jeremy's face. He didn't even try to wipe them away. "I missed everything," he whispered. Katie stared at him, breathing hard, her little fists clenched in her lap. Then, suddenly, she got up and ran, not toward him, but past him, straight into my arms. I caught her and held her tight, feeling her whole body shake. "I got you," I murmured into her hair. "I got you, baby." Jeremy stayed sitting there, his hands dangling between his knees, his shoulders hunched. After a while, Katie pulled back and looked up at me. "Can he stay for a little bit?" she asked. I looked at Jeremy. He looked so small, so broken sitting there. "Just for a little while," I said. "If you want." Katie nodded and went back to the couch. She didn't sit next to him. Not yet, but she sat closer than before. I sat down too, keeping a protective arm around her. For a while, none of us said anything. It was enough just to sit there, breathing the same air again. Jeremy cleared his throat awkwardly. "I brought something." He fumbled in his jacket pocket and pulled out a tiny wrapped box. "It's not much," he said. "But I made it." Katie hesitated, then reached out and took it. She peeled back the paper carefully. Inside was a little silver locket on a chain. The kind you can open up and put a picture inside. Katie opened it. Inside was a tiny photo of the three of us from years ago at the beach. Me with my arms around a sunburned Jeremy, and a 3-year-old Katie perched on his shoulders, laughing. Katie's fingers traced the edges of the photo. "I thought maybe," Jeremy said, voice rough, "you could wear it when you miss me. Or not. If you don't want to." Katie didn't say anything, but she slipped the chain over her head and tucked the locket under her shirt. Jeremy smiled weakly. "Looks good on you, kiddo." Katie stared at him for a long moment. "Are you gonna leave again?" she asked. Jeremy's face crumpled again. "I don't want to," he said. "But I know I have a lot to prove. And I will. I swear." Katie studied him, her small face serious. "Okay," she said finally. "But you have to promise." "I promise," Jeremy said. Katie nodded once, like a little queen granting mercy. It wasn't a full forgiveness. It wasn't a clean slate. But it was something. Jeremy stayed for about an hour. They talked a little. About school. About Katie's new doll. About the Red Sox. It was awkward and stilted, but it was real. When he finally stood up to leave, Katie walked him to the door. Jeremy crouched down in front of her. "I love you, Katie Bug," he said. Katie bit her lip. "I love you too, Daddy," she whispered. He hugged her carefully, like he was afraid she might shatter. And then he left. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it, feeling like the air had been knocked out of me. Katie turned and looked up at me. "Is he really better, Mom?" I knelt down so I could look her in the eye. "I don't know yet, baby. But he's trying. That's something." She nodded and hugged me tight. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself hope. The next few days were strange. Jeremy texted a couple of times, short messages like, "Hope Katie's doing good, and tell her I'm thinking about her." I kept the text light polite. I didn't trust him yet, not even close, but I figured if Katie wanted him in her life, he'd have to earn it. Claire, meanwhile, had gone radio silent. I half expected her to ghost us completely. Wouldn't be the first time she ran away from a mess she made. But Thursday afternoon, just after I got home from work, my phone buzzed. "Claire, can I come by? I want to apologize." I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. "Amanda, only if you mean it." "Claire, I do." I didn't tell Katie. No need to make her anxious if Claire flaked again. But half an hour later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Claire standing there, holding a small wrapped box in her hands and looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I nodded and stepped aside. Katie was in the living room, coloring. When she saw Claire, she froze, her crayon halfway to the page. Claire knelt down right there in the doorway. "Hi, Katie," she said, her voice trembling. Katie didn't say anything. Claire took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. For the card. For being mean. For making you feel like you weren't enough. You are more than enough. You're incredible. And I was wrong." Katie still didn't say anything. Just stared at her with those wide, serious eyes. Claire set the box down in front of her. "I got you something," she said. "You don't have to forgive me. But I hope you'll take it anyway." Katie picked up the box cautiously and unwrapped it. Inside was a charm bracelet, silver, with little charms shaped like books, stars, and a tiny heart. "It's beautiful," Katie whispered. Claire smiled sadly. "Not as beautiful as you." Katie looked at me, like she wasn't sure what to do. I gave her a little nod. Katie stood up and walked over to Claire. She didn't hug her, but she said, very quietly, "Thank you." Claire's shoulders sagged with relief. She blinked rapidly, trying not to cry. "I'm going to do better," Claire said. "I promise." And for the first time, I believed she meant it. Claire left not long after, giving Katie a shy little wave. I closed the door behind her and let out a long breath. Katie twirled the bracelet around her wrist. "Do you think she'll really be nicer now?" she asked. "I think she's going to try," I said. "And that's a start." Katie nodded, satisfied, and went back to her coloring. Over the next few weeks, Jeremy tried harder than I thought possible. He showed up to Katie's soccer games, sitting quietly on the sidelines, cheering for her but never pushing too hard. He sent her little notes, sticky notes with silly jokes tucked into her lunchbox. He even showed up to the school talent show with a bouquet of daisies, her favorite. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward moments, and Katie was careful with her heart. She didn't jump right back into loving him. She made him work for it. And he did. Slowly, Katie started smiling more. Slowly, the house felt less heavy. But I hadn't forgotten. Not about Claire. Not about all the whispers, the way she made me feel small for years, the way she almost broke my daughter's spirit on her birthday. Forgiveness was good. Growth was good. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted something satisfying. Not cruel. Not mean. Just fair. One afternoon, while Katie was at a play date, I sat down with my laptop and pulled up my email. I knew Claire was still heavily involved in her little Fairhaven social clubs, the junior league, the charity boards, all those places where appearances mattered more than anything. I drafted a polite but firm letter to the heads of two of the biggest committees she served on. No lies, no exaggerations, just the truth. I wrote about how Claire had publicly embarrassed a child at her birthday party, how she had sent a card that was cruel and damaging, how she had only apologized after being confronted. I kept it professional, respectful, but devastatingly clear. I attached a photo of the card. I didn't sign my name. I didn't have to. In a town like Fairhaven, word would spread fast enough. I hit send. And waited. It didn't take long. By the following week, Claire had quietly resigned from both committees to focus on personal matters. Her friends stopped commenting on her endless Facebook posts about charity galas and brunches. She faded into the background, still there, still breathing, but no longer holding court like some untouchable queen. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger after that. Karma did all the work. One afternoon, I ran into her at the grocery store. She was pushing a cart full of discount cleaning supplies, looking smaller somehow. Humbled. She saw me. I saw her. She gave me a small nod, not angry, not bitter. Almost grateful. And just like that, I felt it. Closure. Not the burning, Victoria's kind you see in movies. The real kind. Quiet. Solid. Complete. Katie deserved a world where people were held accountable. Where apologies meant something. Where love wasn't a weapon and words weren't used to wound. I deserved that too. As Katie and I drove home, the ocean glittered in the distance. She sang along to the radio, off-key and loud, and I let myself smile. For the first time in years, it felt like we were free. Really, truly free. And it was enough. It was finally enough.